Good afternoon, and welcome to Winter 18 Release Readiness. We're here to talk to you about Einstein Analytics. But before we begin, let's start with the forward-looking statement. We will be talking a little bit about roadmap during this session, so please make your purchasing decisions based on what's available today. I'm Bobby Brill, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Einstein Analytics apps. And I'm here with Danny.
Hi, this is Danny. I'm here to talk to you about Dashboard Designer and Explorer.
Hi, my name is Tim Bizalt, and I'm going to show you external connectors and smart data prep.
My name is François, and I'm going to speak about Einstein Discovery. But before to start, we would like to share with you a little bit the spectrum of Salesforce Analytics. So, when you speak about analytics, there is a lot of questions our customers are asking, and we have a lot of products that are going to answer these questions. So if you think about the most basic needs, like be able to know your top 10 account, be able to know what did you close this year, people usually are starting with report and dashboard. And report and dashboard is included in every Salesforce editions. A lot of customers are using it. It's one of the most favorite features of Salesforce. And we had actually a session, a release readiness session, covering this area for Sales Cloud. But then sometimes, and most often actually, our customers need more. They need to be able to have some trends. They need to create more calculations. They need to understand more how their business is working. And so that's why we have created the analytical app. And so Bobby is going to do an update on this analytical app. And then again, if you look the spectrum from basic to advanced, people then are telling us, analytics is great, and it's great to have insight from our Salesforce data, but also we have data coming from external system. And so we need to be able to load this data from external system, be able to merge them with the Salesforce data to have the real true picture of our customers. And so for that, we have analytics platforms where Danny and Tim are going to speak about. And finally, when you get this whole huge amount of data available in the platform, sometimes you need a little bit help to be able to find the trends, to be able to find the useful insight when you have so much information. And that's why I'm going to show you Einstein Discovery. So please, Danny.
Thanks, Francois. All right, I'm going to start with some analytics apps. So just before I begin, analytics apps actually are, we're making changes across the release. So we have a lot of stuff that we released towards the end of the summer 17 release, and we're continuing to do some updates for winter 18. So I'm going to start with some updates that we've already done that are in sort of the end of the summer 17 release, and I'm going to show you a couple things that we're working on for winter 18 as well. So we have a lot of stuff around improved setup experience. We want to make these apps really easy for customers to install. We have a lot of updates to our dashboards, some new dashboards that are there with sales. We now have support for opportunity splits as well. And we're going to finally support custom fields in that pipeline waterfall chart. I'll show you what that means in a little bit. Also, we're trying to pull in a lot of the fields from Sales Cloud Einstein. So if you're a Sales Cloud Einstein user and you've got opportunity and account insights, you've got lead score, well, we're putting those in the app as well. And from a service app perspective, we've done a lot of updates around the My Performance Summary dashboard. Additionally, as I show you these apps, you're going to see a lot of changes around some of the embedded experience. So you might be familiar with the analytics tabs. We've made a lot of changes toward the way that looks. You can now find dashboards a lot easier through the Salesforce search. And you can even show and hide that header bar for those embedded dashboards. We also have annotation support for communities. So now let's get into the demo. So as you can see, the Analytics tab has gotten a lot better than Summer 17. We now have your recent dashboards, dashboards created by me, dashboards shared with me, the pinned apps, which you saw in Summer 17, so that's still there, as well as notifications. So it's a lot easier to kind of find what you're looking for. You can also do a search for dashboards and apps and lenses that might not be pinned apps. So these are all available through the standard Analytics tab. So first, I'm going to show you some of the updates we've done with the Sales Analytics app for winter 18. So as I click on the Sales Analytics app, one of the new dashboards we introduced was this account-based dashboard. So as a account manager, I can kind of see all of the metrics that roll up to any accounts that I might own. You might notice parent account here. We're actually also pulling in all of the hierarchy, the standard hierarchy feature from accounts. We're pulling that into the Sales app out of the box. So I can actually look at deals from an account hierarchy perspective. As I scroll down, I get a list of all of my accounts I can change my KPI. I might be interested in how much new pipe is being generated in these accounts, and I can see my top accounts right here and how the opportunities are bucketed by stage. I can filter on past due opportunities, opportunities that have been pushed, or even opportunities that have been neglected. So it means I haven't actually touched these opportunities in 60 days. As I scroll down, I can see a list of my cases, I can see a list of my activities, and then the top deals or products related to these accounts. And as I scroll down further, I can actually drill down directly to these records to take action. So let's look at one of the new embedded dashboards we have as well. So on the account page, we've updated the way the account embedded dashboard looks. So as you can see, we've broken this up, we've made it a lot smaller, and we've broken it up by KPI that most customers are interested in, like what is the average sales cycle to sell to this account? What is the win rate? How many open opportunities? What is the average discount if you're using products? And what does that product breakdown look like? And then how many open cases do I have? If I'm an account manager, I might be interested in my opportunities, but I might want to know what are the open cases related to that account, because the customer might not want to do anything with those opportunities if there's a lot of high priority open cases. From here, I can click View Details and see a list of all of those open opportunities for that account. Additionally, we're filtering at the account hierarchy level. So if you are using the standard account hierarchy feature in Sales Cloud, you can actually roll up all these KPIs through that hierarchy. So it's a lot easier way to view the data. So now I'm going to switch to some of the other new dashboards we're building. This is one that's actually going to come out after the production release. And it's how we are going to consume the Einstein features. So let's say you're using lead score. Just by creating the out-of-the-box sales app, we're going to detect that you're using the lead score. And on our lead dashboard, we're actually going to show you leads, and we're going to bucket all of your leads by that lead score here. So you can filter on a particular lead score bucket, like let's show me all my leads that have a score between 60 and 80. You can see the lead source, where are those regions. You can look at leads by whether they're converted or not. And then you can drill down to the individual record. So this all will just work out of the box if you're using lead score. Now let's say you've got opportunity and account insights. On the company overview dashboard, you're going to see an Einstein logo here, and you can click to see those insights. And now I can see all my account and opportunity insights related to my pipeline. So as a manager, as a leader, as someone from operations, if I want to find all of my accounts that maybe have a possible acquisition, so Einstein is detecting all my accounts that somewhere in the news there might be a news of some acquisition, I can click on this, and now I've filtered down all of my data for those accounts. I can see how the pipeline is across my various segments, and then I can even drill down to the individual records there. All right, so now I'm just going to switch over to Service Analytics. So Service Analytics has spent a lot of time making the setup experience a lot easier. So as I click Create App, scroll down to Service Analytics, you're going to see a new page that shows up that's actually checking some minimum requirements, looking for optional features, and detecting all those fields that you might be bringing into the system to make sure that they're compatible with Einstein Analytics. So this page will actually look at your settings and make a recommendation on what settings to use in the app. So on the next page, just like the Sales Analytics app has, you now have the ability to create a basic or custom version of the app. Using the basic version, you just have to answer one question, because you absolutely have to map something to products, because when you're looking at your cases, you want to make sure that you have a way to segment those cases. So choose a field that would best map to how you identify products on your cases, choose that field, and create, looks good next, create the app. So with answering one question, you've now created a Service Analytics app. Now going back, let's look at custom. So if you are using, if you want to customize this, so after creating the app, you can go back and customize. You can say whether or not you want to include a field for CSAT, whether or not you're using knowledge. All these additional options show up on this page, and then you can go fill in the answer, the data mapping that you've done in the past. So that experience should make it a lot easier for you to actually create the app. And the last thing I want to highlight, you'll notice the app experience page is slightly different. We used to have some details on the left-hand panel. There was a button to run the app, to delete the app. So we've actually reorganized this so you can actually see the content a lot better. So you'll notice we have the title up at the top. Reset app has been changed to reconfigure app. So this is how you can go back and change the answers to your questions. I can run the app, so it can show me that kind of first page there. And I can do things like delete, share, and create a new dashboard. So I think we've done a lot with this out-of-the-box experience. But Danny, I'd like to hear a little bit more about how a customer could build some of this stuff from scratch.
Yeah, fantastic. So one quick question though before I go. I noticed in your embedded dashboard when you were showing
Yes.
SalesWave, it seems like the embedding is much tighter. I used to see a Chrome header bar there. Now, has that changed specifically in this release?
Right. So we've actually gotten a lot of feedback from customers that when they embed their dashboards, they don't necessarily want to see all that extra headroom above the dashboard. They just want to see the dashboard. They don't want people to drill into the Analytics Studio to see the data. So we've actually added a setting here. In fact, if I go into edit the page, you'll see that setting where you can actually turn off that header bar. So if I click on the dashboard, I now have this show header. And now you can see the header. I can show the title. And I can remove it completely. So we've really tightened up that embedded experience because we want to make it look as seamless as possible with the rest of Salesforce.
Great. And I'm actually very excited to talk to you about some of the new features that we're releasing Winter 18 for Designer and Explorer. So as with previous themes, we focus primarily on simplicity, on delightful dashboard design experience, and on performance. The idea is we want to bring the power of the analytics platform directly to the business users by allowing them to configure rich interactive dashboards directly using the UI without having to go into code. And recognizing that we have a lot of customers now who are very sophisticated and have configured some amazing dashboards doing incredible things, we want to make sure that as they add more richness to their dashboards, that these dashboards continue to perform at a high level. So in this release, we've provided lots of features in these two themes. So we've provided a Dataset Metadata Editor. So for you advanced users out there, that is a UI for editing your dataset XMD. We've provided the rich styling properties that you're used to in charts and brought them into tables. We've enhanced our link widgets to allow you to point to assets that are external to Einstein Analytics. We've provided a couple of features in global filters and pages that allows you to really rethink the way you design dashboards and organize the content and provide dashboard level controls in a performant, organized way. And we've also brought some Einstein into the data exploration experience by providing charts recommendations. And we've also provided in beta the notion of an apex step, which allows you to fully leverage the power of the Force.com platform to take in the data and pipe it directly to an analytics dashboard. So let's switch over to a demo now so I can show you some of these features in action. So what you see here is a analytics dashboard here in the Winter 18 release. A couple things I want to highlight here. You'll notice that the link widgets now have the ability to point to websites or content that's external to Einstein Analytics. The idea here is that with the link widget, in addition to being able to point to saved explorations or saved dashboards, you can now point to an external URL and point to essentially anything that begins with HTTP or HTTPS. So anything that is in Salesforce or even external to Salesforce. A great tool for you to have links to your company homepage, help in training, or other related content. You'll see in this dashboard enhancements that we made in the charting area as well. So things like in the timeline chart, you've got crosshairs now that helps you kind of extrapolate data in fine-grained time chart graphs. You'll see a very commonly asked feature is the ability to have multiple reference lines in the chart. So here I've got two. I can have any number of reference lines in any of these line or bar-based charts as well. Underneath this chart, you can see I've actually got a table here that's got a dark theme. So we provide this rich styling properties for tables as well as charts. And you can also see that I can actually do one-click sorting. So I can click on individual column headers to be able to sort in any of the tables in my dashboards. And finally, for tables, we've now provided the ability to do selections on tables. So previously, you can only interact with charts and your filter widgets. Here, you can directly select certain records of the table and have the rest of the dashboard update automatically in response to those selections. So some rich interactive capabilities there. We've added a few new charts. The one you see over here is a Sankey chart, a great visualization tool for showing how correlations between different dimensions and to see how a particular dimension value is composed of data from other dimensions. So a very great addition to our existing suite of charts. Those of you who are advanced dashboard admins are familiar with the feature called the Dashboard Inspector. So this is actually a great tool for you to kind of analyze the performance characteristics of your dashboard, to understand where your bottlenecks are, and to figure out where you need to make improvements in order to improve the performance of your overall dashboard. What we've done in Winter 18 is provided some intelligence in this inspector where, as you're investigating a particular step in your dashboard, we've got some recommendations to help you understand the performance characteristics, and also we look for some patterns that typically lead to inefficient performance. We surface them here and give you some suggestions on how you might want to tweak individual queries to make them perform faster. We also provide this feature at a dashboard level. So we provide an additional tab where you can run a performance check against the entire dashboard, and then we look for patterns across all of the queries in your dashboard. And we recognize things like redundant steps that may be grouping in the same dimension, where you might see some gains if you actually combine them into a single step, or steps that might fire multiple queries. So what we're doing here is basically providing you with some intelligence and with some guidance to that dashboard admin to have some guiding principles in mind when you're defining your dashboard so that they always perform optimally. One of the recommendations you're going to see that's a recurring theme in these dashboard recommendations is to use a couple of other new features in Winter 18, dashboard pages and global filters. So what you see up here actually resembles like a list widget or a range widget or a date widget. But what we've actually done here is use a new feature in Winter 18 called global filters. It's a single panel where you can define any number of dashboard level filters. We know that the global filters existed before as read-only static filters. The idea here is that we're going to give the dashboard admins the ability to make these interactive as well, so that you can use this not only for restricting the scope of your dashboard, but for also for defining all the controls you want to give to your dashboard viewers. Quick example here is to see that for any dimension-based filter, you have the same richness that you have in a list widget. You have some additional properties here as well. So in addition to the standard contains operators, you have things like does not equal and string-based matching too. So we've also provided some additional capabilities when you're using global filters for dashboard level controls. If you're using them for date-based filters, you can see that now we have the ability to choose from a variety of predefined date range shortcuts, which I think was also a very big ask from our customer base as well. I'm just going to hop in real quick to the edit mode just to kind of show you how a global filter panel is configured. So again, it's dragged onto your dashboard the same way you would do with any other widget. It can be styled and configured the same way as any other widget, which means you have the full suite of styling properties around background color, title color, text size. And if you wanted to add more filters to your global filter panel, it's simply a matter of adding an additional pill. And just as you would do with configuring your list widgets for dimension filters or date widgets for date-based filters, you're simply selecting a data set, selecting a field, and a global filter is actually created on the fly for you with all the values that are available in your data set. And when you create these global filter pills, you notice that there's also an option to be able to lock a filter, which basically means that this will behave like the global filters that that you're used to today, where users cannot update this particular filter. It's really locking the scope of your dashboard. But again, you have now the flexibility of creating editable filters so that your end users can use those as the tools for exploration within a dashboard. Pages is also a new concept. This is in beta. And what Pages allows you to do, again, this is a very common concept in mobile where you've got a very limited amount of real estate and you want to be able to chunk information in Pages so that people can swipe left or swipe right to get to other sets of analysis. You can imagine this being useful in desktop experience as well. If you have a very long dashboard, scrolling up and down means you scroll off all your dashboard level controls. Instead, you could use Pages like so and organize the data in chunks so that you can centralize the data in a certain area of a dashboard And you can have users focus on that area without ever having to leave or navigate away from their dashboard level controls. In this particular case, I've broken down a dashboard into 3 pages. You'll see in all 3 pages, though, I've got the same top level controls that I've replicated across all 3. I can simply add more pages if I need. Because we're in beta, we're limited to 5 pages. You'll see now that if I am now viewing the dashboard, across my pages, whatever controls I set on any given page will apply. So I made a couple of country-based filters here. Now, if I now navigate to a different page in my same dashboard, the dashboard level filters now apply globally across all the pages. So I get a single coherent experience while still being able to chunk down the analysis across multiple pages. And while we're in this page, I also want to point out a couple of other cool charting features. You'll see here a geochart that's showing us using coloring the sum of amount based on country. But you'll notice that when I'm hovering over individual elements of this chart, I'm getting a lot more information than I normally would get from this chart. So you can see I've now also got insights as to the quantity and the average unit price. In Winter 18, you have the ability to customize tooltips for charts, which means that if you're only displaying a measure and you're only grouping by one dimension, but you still want to show some more contextual data when they hover over a particular element, you can configure that directly as a tooltip for that chart.
And the tooltip looks much nicer than before, so
Much nicer.
Yes, absolutely.
the look and feel is wow.
Yes, exactly. And it's fully configurable. So that's I think that's the best part. Is as long as you've got data queried in that particular step, you can leverage it in the dashboard tooltips, in the charting tooltips. So I'm going to navigate to another page real quick and show you a couple other things. This is the Origami chart, more kind of like a horizontal funnel chart, where you can see, in this case, basically a stage breakdown. What I wanted to highlight here was also a very exciting new capability around being able to customize the interactions between the components in your dashboard. So you know that faceting is a very powerful concept in dashboards. The idea here is if you have data being driven off the same data set, as you make selections on your dashboard, everything else kind of facets to show you in the contextual changes based on the selections that you've made. And this is a very useful tool. But consider this example where I've got a top performance list, and I've got my top 5 sales reps here. Faceting is great because I can now drill into one and have the rest of the dashboard focus on that one particular sales rep. Filtering might not work so great the other way. So if I'm actually focusing down on a particular stage in my pipe, I want the list to remain static. It's my top 5 performers, and it's based on total sales volume. So you can imagine that I want faceting to work in some cases, but not others. So this is a notion of selective faceting or directional faceting. And previously what you had to do was unsubscribe this list from faceting and then manually bind the filters resulting from this list to all of the other widgets in your dashboard. And what I want to show you now is the ability to do that now directly in the UI without ever having to go in the code. So I'm going to switch to edit mode. And while I'm here, I actually also wanted to point out that you'll see that the panel here of all of the steps in your dashboard got a little bit of a makeover. So we've reorganized this in a way to make it very easy for you to understand the data that's in your dashboard and to find specific steps in your dashboard. So it's all organized based on data sets. You can see I'm using 2 data sets here. Steps of multiple data sets they get bucketed in their own section. Static steps and any other custom steps are also listed there as well. And if I wanted to do a text-based search against any of the steps in my data set in my dashboard, I can do that directly in the step panel. So what I wanted to do was, in this particular widget, I wanted to make sure that I do emit facets so that I can filter the rest of the dashboard, but I am not going to be updated when any other action happens on the dashboard. When I select this widget, you'll notice in the step properties, there's now separate controls for being able to receive filters and for being able to broadcast them. So what I want to do is still retain the ability to broadcast filters, but I no longer want to receive incoming filters from any other actions that I do in your dashboard. So by doing this, when I now run this dashboard, selections I make in the actual top 5 list will still facet the rest of the dashboard as before. But now, if I now make interactions with anywhere else in the dashboard, you'll notice that my list stays very static. It's no longer filtered by selections I make elsewhere. So very powerful concept now that we can do directly in the UI. One of my favorite features in Designer is the notion of being able to edit a step directly in the UI. So this is great. I'm definitely very excited to show this. So before, being able, if you just want to swap out a measure or change a grouping or some other aspect of your query, you either had to go into code or you had to replicate and detach and reattach. Now, the idea here is that you can now do this directly in the UI via just a couple of clicks. So here, if I wanted to change the data that's being displayed in this pie chart, I choose the widget, and I can either click on the edit icon here, or I can just double click, and now I'm basically directly editing the query that's powering this widget. So if I now wanted to change this to be, instead of some total revenue, I want to make this total quantity, and instead of grouping by product, I want to do it by sales rep. I can do that directly in the UI. In this particular case, I'll probably need to change the name as well.
So no more removing and re-adding steps?
That's right. So you notice that right now I'm editing that step in context. I have not created a copy of the step. I have not had to detach any other step. And just by clicking on the update button, I've actually edited that step in context, and it's reflected directly in the dashboard.
Looks great.
All right, fantastic.
No more JSON.
And no more JSON. Exactly, making great progress there. So I'd like to segue now into some features that we have available for data exploration as well. So I'm going to switch over very quickly to datasets, and we're going to explore one of these opportunity datasets. So a couple of cosmetic changes here. It's now much easier to find the add button if you wanted to add additional rows or measures or groupings to your exploration. So I'm going to add I'll add a grouping here. What I wanted to highlight is this great new feature called charts recommendations. So with every release, we're always adding rich charts to help you visualize your data in different ways. Sometimes it's difficult to keep track of all of them. So what we're doing now is to help you kind of branch out and understand the full potential of all the visualization capabilities that we have. We're going to give you suggestions based off the metrics and the groupings that you've actually defined. So we've built in some intelligence that's based off of the nature of your groupings, whether they're geographical or the cardinality or the number of metrics you want to show. And we basically surface some recommendations that might help you highlight that kind of data in the most effective way. So here you can see I've been given some previews on how to visualize a very simple query. But you can see now if I start adding additional measures, it recognizes that, oh, maybe a scatter chart is a better way for showing multiple metrics. Or if I'm actually going to be grouping by a geography-based dimension, then perhaps a mapping chart would be more appropriate. So we've got some built-in intelligence here that, and again, so by accepting one of these recommendations, we basically changed the configuration and all of the mappings for you so that you can instantly have this visualization. You can clip it to Designer, you can save it as a saved exploration without ever having to do any of those other configurations manually.
And which one is your favorite chart?
Well, I think these geocharts always are very eye-pleasing,
Yeah.
And we've also added the ability to be able to, if you're powering a mapping chart with lat-long data, we have the ability to zoom into specific areas now. So I think it makes for a very interactive experience when you're looking at it in the dashboard.
I love the Sankey one. Sankey chart is.
Oh yes.
So
The Origami as well, Origami Chart.
Yes, absolutely.
One of my
So
favorites.
Sankey and Origami are the two new charts. They absolutely demo well. That's why they're in both my dashboards. I'm going to switch over quickly to the just a table-based representation to show you a couple of related enhancements that we've made there. So we're looking at a values table. As you know, we can add any number of columns to this raw data table. What we've done is given you the ability to reorder these columns very easily by drag and drop. So you no longer have to kind of remove and re-add in the right order. You just drag and drop, and you've got the tables and the way that you actually want to view it in a dashboard. So very powerful stuff. Now on the right-hand side, you may realize that, wow, this is all brand new. So we've pretty much brought all of the styling properties that you've grown accustomed to for tables and put them into this exploration UI. So themes, if you wanted a dark table to match all of your dark themed charts, you can be able to do that. If you want the classic look, you can keep that as well. So a bunch of out-of-the-box themes for your table-based visualizations. You can also control things like spacing. If you want a tight look and feel, you can reduce the cell padding for their cells. For headers, you can change the color of the background and text. You can change grid lines, cell colors. If you have a description column that's it's going to word wrap, you might as well just make each row span 2 lines so that you can actually truncate less. So you have that flexibility here. And my personal favorite when it comes to values tables is that index column really isn't that useful. So why not just hide it altogether? So you have the ability of doing that. directly in the UI. So some great features here for tables. So while I was doing this demo, you may have realized that, oh, wow, in the header bar, there's this new button here called Dataset Fields. So this is also another great feature and a huge step towards Node.json. So this is the ability to, using a UI, configure and the formatting, the labels of all of the data fields in your data set for display in all of your dashboards. So again, this is the Dataset XMD editor. When you click on it, so this functionality is available to all dashboard admins and all dataset admins as well. So you can see here, as a dataset admin, I have the ability to see all the fields, even the ones that I've hidden from the Explorer UI. I can see API field names, so this is obviously a very useful tool to have because you frequently have to reference API names when you're going into JSON or you're creating various options for groupings and measures. So a quick way to be able to kind of cut and paste the API name, but most importantly, a way to actually format the labels of these measures. So if I didn't want this long measure here, it's basically just revenue. I can change the label here and have it reflected instantly in all of the dashboards that use this data set. And if I wanted to also format the way that a quantity is being displayed or a currency is being displayed, I've got the full flexibility of defining the format for any measure in this data set. So we've got some predefined defaults here for numbers, percents, currency. But if I wanted something custom, I could do that as well. So if I wanted us to do something like a euro, right? I could change that and define a euro-based formatting for a particular currency. And basically, when I click on Save here, I'm applying these changes, these labeling changes, these formatting changes for all these measures across the entire data set so that all dashboards will pick this up without ever having to go into code. So one last thing before I finish is, so we mentioned the Apex step in beta. And what I want to show you is a very simple example of a very, very powerful concept. And that's the idea of being able to pipe data pretty much from anywhere and display it as you would any data in an analytics dashboard. So I've got a dashboard here that's just displaying some stock quotes. So the key aspect here is that none of the stock information lives in analytics or even lives in Salesforce. What I've done is created an Apex class to issue an API call out to retrieve stock quotes, daily stock quotes for a particular company. And what I've done in my analytics dashboard is I've created a selector in order to pass in the company name, and I've created an Apex step that references that Apex class, so that when I actually render this dashboard, I'm issuing that Apex call out, getting the data, and displaying it in real time in this analytics dashboard. So basically, the data I'm showing here does not live anywhere in Salesforce. It's being fetched real time on the fly. And this is just a very simple example of what you could actually do with an Apex step. It's currently in beta because it's currently not fully packageable, meaning that you can still create and use Apex steps in your dashboards, but if you actually wanted to migrate from org to org, you're going to have to manually migrate the Apex class and in these dashboards separately.
That's really exciting. I have a couple of customers asking for data being available in dashboards, but they're hesitant sometimes with financial data or so to actually move it into Salesforce. So this could be an option.
Yes, absolutely. Because the key requirement here is that you don't have to pull and persist data directly into Salesforce. It could live in your external system. You could pull them into Salesforce external objects as one example. Apex step is just one way to do it. We also, again, have the existing SOQL step type, where you can query a Salesforce object as well. So you have lots of flexibility in terms of being able to pull in external data and mash it up with your existing analytics data.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Your team has been doing so much, and the experience is just so much better just than, let's say, one year ago. So it's awesome. The rich table formatting, I mean, the tables look awesome. There's so many more customization features. I love pages. I think that's probably my favorite feature that you guys built, because we could now take this whole application and condense it down to, let's say, a single dashboard with steps that are shared across pages. When I showed you the analytics or the Einstein and the Sales Cloud Einstein integration with Sales App, that was a page. We could just show and hide that without having to worry about real estate. I mean, it's just making our lives so much easier. But I did have a few questions. So global filters looks awesome, but what about customers that are already using global filters today? Can they automatically get this new feature, or how do they migrate to that?
Yeah, that's a really great question because, as many of you know, we have a global filters widget available, even before Winter 18. Those global filter widgets will continue to work as they do today. As you know, the functionality is very limited. It's static, it can't be hidden, and it can only work across one data set. When you open this dashboard in Winter 18, you'll be given the option to automatically upgrade from your old global filter widget to the new global filter widget panel. So it's a single button click, and we actually do the entire migration for you. That one global filter widget will show up as a pill on your global filter panel. So you will need to do the migration in order to use any of the new global filter capabilities. But again, it's all done through the UI using a single click, so no coding, no manual coding involved for the upgrade.
Awesome. And then one last question. When you were going into the Explorer and changing the labels on your fields, awesome. But what about, I know a lot of customers doing that before with Wave Labs. So does this mean that Wave Labs is no longer going to be supported going forward, or what's the deal with Wave Labs now?
Oh, right. That's also a very good question. So Wave Labs is still being supported, so you can still edit your dataset XMD using Wave Labs, although you now have a fantastic alternative. The plan right now is that once we want to be able to replicate all the functionality in Wave Labs directly in the editor that we just saw. We're missing a couple of features, namely the ability to add derived measures and a couple of other ones. We plan on adding that over the next 1 or 2 releases.
Awesome.
You will get the full power of Wave Labs directly in that Dataset Editor UI. And when that happens, then you'll be using that instead of the Wave Labs to edit your Dataset XMD.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Danny.
Awesome.
So you showed us
Great.
a lot about how to build the dashboard, but talk about, Tim, let's talk about how to get that data into Einstein Analytics.
Yeah, we've added a couple of new mechanisms to, or we've improved the mechanisms to actually bring external data into Einstein Analytics. And if we take a look at what I have here in store for you for the demo of the data manager related products in Einstein Analytics, we're going to take a look at the brand new CSV upload. We've improved the dataset builder integration. We have a bunch of new external connectors. That's a feature area that is relatively new overall to allow customers to bring in their external data into Einstein Analytics using our connectors to actually move the data over. And then also we've leapfrogged our data prep recipe capabilities into becoming a truly smart data prep mechanism for our customers. So let's move over into the demo and start with our CSV upload. So when you go in and you create your data set, we'll have the ability to pick the CSV file upload mechanism. And you'll notice this is an entirely new user interface. You pick your file from your local computer, you click next, and this is some of the smartness that we've also built in here by automatically detecting the file properties. For example, this happens to be a comma delimited file, and we've going to store it in my private app. And you'll notice that we perform a couple of pretty advanced parsing features here for giving the specific field a name, so I can go in and change my field labels. I can even overwrite the field type here from a measure, for example, into a dimension. And also we are identifying the number format for this specific measure. So we've identified that there's a $sign. This is a specific formatting that's coming out of Excel, for example, when you format a measure as a currency. And in addition, you can perform your essentially kind of a preview of your data set. We're then uploading this data set to our Einstein Analytics cloud, and you can monitor that data set in your data manager until it's available. The other improvement that we've made is moving data from Salesforce core objects or standard objects, custom objects, or even external objects into our cloud. And I can create a new data set name here is, for example, opportunity products. And then I can pick an existing data flow to create this new data set in. And we're moving you over into our new visual data flow editor that's been GA since our summer release. And then you can go in and browse the object model of the Salesforce org that Einstein Analytics is associated with. And you can pick your objects that you're interested in. For example, my opportunity object. And I can select my fields that I'm interested in from the opportunity object. And then traverse through the relationships of this object, for example, into my accounts, and then also pick the relevant account fields that we have in the account object. In the next step, this would then be appended to the data flow that I've picked and that I wanted to merge this new data set extraction process in with. And I can go in and continue to modify or view my new extraction process down here, my opportunity object and my account object, to create my opportunity account data set. And then I can save and run my data flow from here. So another new area that we've invested a lot of focus in is our external connections. And that's an area that I'm pretty excited about because we have a lot of customers that are using our products, for sales use cases, for service use cases, as you described, Bobby, earlier. We also have customers using us for marketing-related use cases. And we now have a total of 6 connectors, and with the winter release, we've added the Microsoft Dynamics CRM connector and the Google BigQuery connector that you can also use to bring in data from Google Analytics into Einstein Analytics to enable some of those marketing use cases and maybe even show some of the beautiful Sankey charts that Danny showed earlier with showing how your customers are becoming a lead and then an opportunity, and then a paying customer from all the way from a marketing campaign through your website to a paying customer. The existing connectors that we have is the Redshift connector, the Salesforce multi-org connector that allows you to connect into Salesforce org, into Salesforce orgs that are not the associated Salesforce org of your Einstein Analytics instance, and connect with username and password, as well as the Marketing Cloud and Heroku Postgres connector. So if we basically we can go in and set up a new table here, for example, from Google BigQuery. I have my compensation table here, so I can walk you through how you can basically remove and add fields here. This is this field picker. Let's say I also want to add my close date field, and I get a preview of my Google Analytics data here in this preview table, and I can also perform certain specific field attribute overrides. So in this case, I have my text here, I have my precision, and I can basically, if I need to make some adjustments here, save this specific table back into my list of replicated objects. And from there on, I can go in and run replication, meaning I'm going to refresh my table because I've changed the metadata schema for it. Good. So let's go back to the data set that I've just uploaded to my private app here, my customer demographics data set, and create a new recipe from it. So this is going to be my customer demographic data set. And in Visual Data Prep, you notice we've also tightened up the table view, the preview. So we're currently looking at a sample of the file that I've just uploaded that allows you to interact with the data. What is new in the winter release, we allow our data analysts and data wranglers to go in and briefly get a preview of the data. For example, we've identified that there are 412 and 382 married and single values in this specific column. And then we've also identified 2 anomalies with the M and S models. So I can perform some data cleanup operations here and roll them into our married and single elements. In addition, we have the education level here. From there on, I can go in and look at some of the machine learning that we borrowed from Einstein Discovery and have now integrated into our data prep product. So you'll notice that we've created these clusters, for example, around the education level here, high school, we have some spelling mistakes or spelling differences, and we've identified these as belonging together, as meaning the same thing. And you'll notice also at the bottom of the screen, we'll have a smart suggestion bar that is adaptive to the operations of the user, to the specific context of the user. So if I'm clicking into a dimension field here, for example, and I have specific data values in my dimension field, I get adaptive recommendations to the specific context that I'm in. So in this case, I want to kind of perform some data quality operations and clean up my education level by specific clusters. I have all of my spelling mistakes here rolled up into these bucket families, and I can rename the parent name for my family here. And then just create this new column that essentially cleans up my education level into normalized values that I would like to see. In addition, with this credit score, this is a measure. We'll show you histograms, we show you statistics, and we'll also allow you to interact with the smart suggestions bar. The top suggestion here is, for example, to round this, since it's a floating point. And let's say if I really want to actually roll this up to the next highest integer, I can use the rounding function to do that. So it really made it a little bit simpler to perform these data prep operations, and it also accelerates the data prep process for our users. And just the last thing that I want to show you here in the data prep interface, let's enrich our data with some contact information. So I have the demographics data set and some contact information from my associated Salesforce org. And in this case, it identified some overlaps on the last name case, but I really want to join on the social security number as a unique identifier. The next step is prompting me for the fields that I would like to enrich my existing demographic data with. And then we're updating the sample preview with these 3 additional fields that we're now enriching from our Salesforce contact data. And the final step is then to actually create this data set. Notice that we also have a trail of the transformations that we've performed here in this specific recipe. I can go back to these specific transformations and, for example, edit those in line here in my recipe, remove certain transformations if I'm unhappy with them. Good, so that is the overview over the Smart Data Prep capabilities.
Awesome, thanks, Tim. So it looks like data prep got easier with Einstein.
It did.
But I did have one question. So I see this on our the Einstein Analytics Success Community chatter group. We've got data prep recipes and we've got data flow, and they're kind of their own thing. When should a customer use the recipes versus the data flow?
That's a great question, Bobby. I think we can break it down by user persona. We're looking at the Visual Data Flow Editor of a platform and a tool that enables developers to create and develop their data flows more easily and with less error-prone type of processes. And the data prep recipe product is more aimed at the data analyst and a user persona that doesn't necessarily want to get up to speed with all of the specific transformations that we offer. So it's a lot more familiar interface with your data, and that's pretty much where we draw the line, around user personas.
Awesome.
And another great feature that we were able to publish in the winter release for recipes is that they're now packageable, so you can develop your recipes in a sandbox and move them to production.
Excellent. So I think we showed some really good ways to do human-led discovery, but I think, Francois, if you could tell us how Einstein Discovery can make things a little bit easier.
Sure.
One more thing before we move on into Einstein Discovery, I'd like to quickly announce that we also have a new feature for platform encryption. So if you have existing Salesforce Shield platform encryption, you can leverage encryption for Einstein Analytics data sets. It's really easy to set up, and it keeps your data safe at rest. So we fully encrypt that, and there's no loss of functionality of your existing products and your existing use of the Einstein Analytics.
Oh, that's fantastic.
On to you, Francois.
Thank you. Are you done? Are you sure? now?
I'm not done.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to steal anything, This is very cool, encryptions. A lot of customers want that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
So now I'm going to speak about Einstein Discovery. And so a lot of features, again, also for the winter release. You can see the list here. I'm going to show most of them, like Story Improver, how you can make a story more interesting, how to help you, to avoid the pitfall of loading too much data and having some duplicate, for example. Story over time, which is really a way to see your story, but from a time series perspective, to know what kind of change in your business over the last month, last week, or last day. Story refresh, to recreate automatically your story, repump the data and find the outcome that you want and more inside, more fresh inside. One, what I'm really excited about, which is really our integration between Einstein Analytics and Einstein Discovery. So, and Tim and I work together on these features, makes easy to load data from Einstein Analytics into Discovery to run analysis. Also, we have made a lot of effort around our real-time prediction prescription in Salesforce. So once you run your analysis, once you know, for example, like how long is going to close my deal, and understand more on this area, to be able to write back directly into every opportunities and to be able to predict for every opportunities the number when you will be able to close the opportunity and what you can do to improve this number. And finally, Trailhead is very important for us to train people. So we have 2 new modules on the Trailhead available that I encourage everybody to go and to pass. So let's go with the demo. And of course, the best way to show discovery is to start from Einstein Analytics, from the data manager, where we just finished. Thank you to Tim. So here, I'm going to edit my data flow. So the same data flow screen that Tim showed you. And here what you can see is we have a new node that is available, that is export node. And using this export node that I've just drag and drop here, and let me do it again just for fun. I can drag and drop here my new node. What it's going to do here is specify which dataset you want to export to Einstein Discovery. So here I have my edge mart, my dataset, opportunity with margin. I want to target the Einstein Discovery node that I did. I want to specify with which users I want to make the owner of this dataset in Einstein Discovery. So here, Nicola, for example. And now you can see very easily, I have created a new node. And this new node will just take the dataset from Analytics and load it in Discovery. I can now update it, and I can run it. And so as soon as I will run it, it will run the process in the backend, load into Discovery, and you will receive a nice email when it's done in Discovery. So now let's switch to Einstein Discovery here. And now you can see my new dataset is available. Just been loaded from Analytics. Of course, you keep the same features on Discovery. Of course, if you want to load data from other systems, like with our pre-existing connectors, Salesforce, CSV, Hadoop, Oracle, Postgre, or so on, you can still do it. Our customers can still do it, but if they have spent a lot of effort in Analytics, they can leverage all the effort they've done there. You can see here my dataset. I can review the change, and from there, Einstein Discovery is going to recommend you improvement in your data. And so you saw the same kind of similar UI into Analytics. And it's really like we are kind of helping each other. We are working together. And the target for us really is to have one ETL tools. And this ETL tool should be Analytics. So now I have my margin dataset. I can see all the variables, all the columns that are inside here, where I can run my story. So what I want to know here is really like, in this case, I want to understand more margin. What is driving my margin? Is it my product? Is it my region? Is it my verticals? And having the tools to really help me to find these trends and also be able to do some prediction and prescriptions. For that, on the create screen, I'm going to ask my question, what I want to do, maximize, minimize. I can have multiple options. In this case, it's really about margin that I'm interested on. But you can also do it with Boolean or other numeric values that you may have in your data set. And from there, I'm just going to create a story. So here, it is where it's going to go through all the different combinations to really understand which one are driving my margin. Is it like the product? Is it the vertical? Is it the combination of multiple items? And you will be able to do the same manually, but as you can see here, we are running over 2,000 graphs. So this will take an enormous number of time. And here the machine is really doing it for you. Also, what we are doing here is we are doing some statistical tests to be able to be sure that what we are finding is really relevant in your data. So for the matter of time, I'm just going to go to the existing story here. And so this is a story done, created by my system. And what you can see here is what it's telling me is margin is driving margin, which makes sense, right? I know it makes sense.
It's quite logical.
Quite logical.
That's a true statement.
Not very useful, but makes sense, right? And this happened a lot, right? When you are putting multiple columns together, a lot of them may be correlated to each other. A lot of maybe duplicate informations. And sometimes it's kind of hard to find. So that's why we have added with the winter release what we call the story improver. So the story improver is going to recommend you improvement based on what is saw in your data. First one, for example, here, is so that there is two columns that have the same type of information, distributors and distributors ID. One of them is the text of the distributor, the label per se, and one is just the ID. So in this case, we want to remove one to have more insight, but the machine don't really know which one because it's really like a platform capability. So we are just going to ask question when you need to have like business input. And in this case, I know I want to keep distributor. What we are telling you also here is we have outliners. So outliners also are not so great because you are really about finding trends. And if you have like, for example, one deal where you have like a huge margin, this may be just an exception or a mistake even in your data. So you may want to remove these outliners, which we are recommending you here. And finally, strongest predictors is also something that we find that margin is really driven strongly by this field. So either it's a holy grail and you really find like what you are looking for and you are really happy, or it's just like a misleading. And in my case, it's misleading because they are derived field, margin in euro and margin in dollar. So I'm just going to ignore the margin in euro and recreate my story. And here automatically, based on these recommendations, we are going to recreate the story. And of course, with this improvement, you are going to have better results. So again, we go over the same process, running over every graph, running statistical tests, creating the story that you can understand what is our finding, and finding improvements to see where, in which area you can improve your margin. So again, I'm going to go to an existing stories that I've already created for the time's sake. And here now you have really insight. Now you know that margin by product, product is really driving margin. And it's the biggest driver, is driving by 2%. You can see clutches, rotor screw, and belt drive are your biggest product with margin. But not only that, you can see also that the region Germany, for example, for clutches, is driving your margin. So here the text is really bringing you more information about your graph and helping you to understand what is really driving clutches. The fact it's not only the fact this is this product, but also Germany have an impact on it. On this page, you can find more inside. You can find, like, for example, the margin by product is different when you have this distributor. So really, you can go through all this finding very easily in your text. You can ask also questions here. So for example, why? Why this margin are so high for this specific product? And here, for example, belt drive, I have the deep dive and the kind of like classification of what is driving the margin for belt drive, the fact that belt drive and distributor, Nizizu is driving it a lot. Belgium and region Germany is a big positive drivers, but the region India, for example, is not a good driver. So you really have a deep dive to really let you understand what is really driving the margin in a very easy manner. Of course, we are transparent, so we are showing you the R code that you can download and run in your system if you want to. It's really the R code that we're using to generate all of this insight, so it's really want to be transparent in this area. A new feature also that we have developed with the winter release is story over time. So with the story over time here, it's kind of a different view of your story. We are really concentrating on showing you the difference between last period. Last period can be the last quarter, the last month, the last year, or the last day. So here in my example is what are the different drivers between Q4 and Q3. And you can see here that your margin had changed by 3% in total, the average by 3%, and the count by 1. So you have one less transaction compared to last quarter. And for each of them, you can see now the biggest drivers. One of the biggest drivers is discount level gold is driving your margin by 5%, sorry. Vertical consumer product is driving it. For each of them also you can deep dive and have the split, like, have the historical time series about this specific vertical consumer group and how it evolved over the time. And also why. Again, the same why it happened. You have the same view here for the vertical consumer product. So what are the changes between last quarter and this quarter that have an impact with my consumer product? And here you can see the deep dive again. And you can see also all the more information in the tooltip. And as you can see, by the way, we're using the Einstein Analytics charting engine. So you see exactly the same beautiful chart that you have also on Einstein Analytics. So really, like, you have a deep dive, deep understanding of what changed over time. So now it's really like the one where you may go like every day, every week to really understand what changed in your business. You can also move the total if total don't have strengths in your story. So for example, we have some customers who are predicting customer satisfactions, and total of customer satisfaction don't really make sense. So you can easily remove that from your graph. What is really interesting also is when you run this type of story, you want to repeat the story over time, right? So now we have the refresh story button. So in one click, you can, so if this story has been created from a CSV file, you can re-upload a new CSV file to get the story completely recreated with the same parameters and the same transformation we did. And if the story has been created from Salesforce, we are simply going to repull the Salesforce data and recreate the story directly in Einstein Discovery very easily in one click. So it's kind of like the main new feature from Einstein Discovery for the winter release. We also have more coming up on the front of the real-time prediction prescriptions. And so it's going to be a pilot features. So if you want to join these features, please ping me or ping your sales representative. And of course, our 2 new modules, I encourage you to go in Trailhead and pass these 2 really cool new modules that really help you to understand better on Einstein Discovery.
Awesome. Thanks, Francois.
Awesome.
Thank you. So I just had one question. So in the Sales app, we're bringing in some of the standard Sales Cloud Einstein features like lead score and opportunity insights. And I know they're building some other things. How does the Sales Cloud Einstein differ from Einstein Discovery?
Right. It's a great point. And you have to see Einstein as infusing in every cloud, right? So you have, like, if you go to Sales Cloud, you have dedicated Einstein capabilities like lead scoring, opportunity insight. If you go to Service Cloud, we are speaking about case classification and chatbot, for example. And same for Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud. So every cloud have their Einstein capabilities linked to their business line, which are really providing value for their use cases. And so Einstein Discovery is really the Einstein side, one piece of it, because you know that it's now fusing in all the Einstein Analytics capabilities, but it's one of the Einstein for analytics, and it's really a platform feature. It's not directed to a specific use case. It's really about the fact that we know you have data, you have data as a customers. We know that with now Einstein Analytics, you are loading more and more external data. And so we really want to provide you tools to understand better your data, find the trends, find the predictions, prescriptions, and be able to write back this information into Salesforce.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. That concludes our Winter 18 release readiness. Please visit us on Trailhead. You can try us out. There's modules for Einstein Analytics, Sales and Service Analytics, and Einstein Discovery as well. So thank you very much.